In a separate video, I talked about different cost management strategies. One of those strategies which I mentioned and is called substitution. This is when you replace an established or incumbent supplier with a cheaper alternative. At first glance, it may seem like a smart way to cut costs, but there are risks that go far beyond the immediate savings. Let me explain. Your incumbent supplier knows your company well. Take a security contract for a public building, for example. The incumbent has likely learned all the quirks, the camera systems that glitch, or the locks that stick in cold weather. These details probably won't be documented in a formal contract, but they matter when it comes to performance. The other suppliers you invite to bid on the contract, the contenders, won't have this experience. What's more, the contenders are often forced to compete on cost alone, since that's their only way to stand out. They'll present an appealing price, win the contract, and then scramble to figure out how to turn a profit. This is a pretty common sales tactic, which goes by different names, such as land and expand, common in B2B sales, where the aim is to secure a small contract and expand later by offering additional services. Beachhead strategy, borrowed from military language. This refers to gaining a small foothold in a new market with the goal of future expansion. Wedge strategy, similar to the foot-in-the-door tactic, it's about entering with a smaller offering and later moving to bigger deals. Entry-level sale. This involves starting with a low-cost product to gain the client's trust. I've got my own term for this, the procurement honeypot. Here's why. If you're in procurement, contracts like security services are very tempting. They're operationally focused, often last for several years, and carry a high total value. Even making a small dent in the cost can earn you some recognition. That's the allure. But this approach can be dangerous, just like the honeypot strategy we see in espionage. In the 2018 movie Red Sparrow, the character Dominica is trained as a spy to seduce her targets. This exchange from the movie highlights the risk. Instructor. Every human being is a puzzle of need. You must become the missing piece and they will tell you anything. Dominica. And then what happens to them? Instructor. Then they become either a friend or a mark. But remember, once they know your true face, there's no going back. This perfectly illustrates the manipulation involved in the honeypot and the consequences that follow once trust is broken. When we chase a low bid from a contender, we might be setting ourselves up for failure. What's worse is that resentment lingers from the deception. In the real world, there are countless examples of companies switching to seemingly cheaper suppliers, only to regret it later. Here are a few. Boeing and the 787 Dreamliner. Boeing outsourced much of its Dreamliner production to cheaper, less experienced suppliers. The result? Major delays and quality control issues, forcing Boeing to buy back several suppliers to regain control, costing far more than planned. Mattel and the 2007 toy recalls. Mattel switched to cheaper suppliers in China to reduce production costs, but the toys ended up containing lead-based paint, leading to a massive recall. The cost? $110 million, not to mention damage to the brand. UK government in the NHS system. In an effort to save money, the UK government awarded contracts for a new IT system to lower-cost suppliers. These suppliers lacked the experience needed for such a large project, resulting in years of delays and billions of pounds wasted before the project was scrapped. Gibson guitars and wood suppliers. Gibson switched to a cheaper wood supplier, which landed them in legal trouble for violating environmental laws. The cost of fines and lost production far outweighed any savings from the cheaper supplier. If these examples teach us anything, it's that cheaper is often more expensive in the long run. Saving a few bucks up front can lead to bigger headaches down the line. If you're interested in learning more about these sales tactics, check out these books. Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert B. Cialdini. Cialdini dives into techniques like foot in the door, which shows how small commitments can lead to larger ones. The Challenger Sale by Matthew Dixon and Brent Adamson. This book focuses on building customer relationships through trust and expertise, with a long-term approach to growing accounts. Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey A. Moore. This book explains how to use the beachhead strategy to gain a foothold in niche markets before expanding to the mainstream. Spin Selling by Neil Rackham. Rackham emphasizes consultative selling, where small wins build trust and lead to bigger deals over time. Substitution may seem like an easy win, but the risks often outweigh the rewards. When it comes to long-term contracts, it pays to think beyond the immediate savings and consider the value of experience and trust.